How are you a bad person?
Oh, let's not even go down that road. I already told on Cheryl Strayed killing that bird. Come on, do I got to do more?
That's not being a bad person. That's a person who's appreciative of a dark moment. That doesn't make you a bad person.
No, I'm a bad person.
Are you?
Yeah,
Really?
I am.
Give me an example.
You know, and this is awkward, but this is another one of those cognitive reframing honesty things. Is I took care of my mother while she was dying of lung cancer. And even while I was taking care of her and she was lapsing in and out of consciousness in her home, there was a little part of me that felt this glee that thought, I will never have to worry about mom again. I will never have to worry about whether mom is offended by my work. I will never have to worry about mom falling down the stairs and breaking her leg. That this enormous concern in my life will be resolved. And it's going to be at the cost of losing someone I love, so much. But the benefit is that this huge burden of responsibility is going to be lifted. And so there was this kind of secret glee thinking, I'm going to have some freedom here that I never imagined. Nora Ephron touches on that in her work when she talks about her mother's death. And I think it's just it's an honest thing, but it's not a thing that makes you look very good.
I don't think that makes you a bad person. I think that makes you a person who's honest about thoughts that are very uncomfortable. That is just something that people think, I think, all the time if they're dealing with someone who's completely incapacitated and they have to care for them 24/7, but they don't express it. It's just a reality of the burden of someone who's really sick or really dying. There's no getting around it. I don't think it's that's not a good example. I need an example why you're a bad person. Maybe you're just really self-critical or aware of things that other people could take out of context of the totality of your life and just use it as an example, put it in quotes and use it as an example of you being a bad person.
Another thing is I'm really, really conflicted about the nature of my creativity. This idea that in journalism school, they call the theory seduce and betray. That when you go into an interview situation, your goal is to gain the trust of that person and to get them to reveal something very intimate that you're going to betray by revealing to the public. So you're basically going in there to charm them and then to hurt them. And so much of my creative process is that way because, for example, the Guts story,
Mm-hmm.
the story in which the guy puts the carrot up his butt, that was my best friend at the time in like late 20s. And he got fantastically drunk and he told me that carrot story. And I honestly believe he had never told anybody the carrot story. And I kept that story in my mind for, 10, 15, almost probably 20 years until I found a way to put it with 3 similar stories and make a larger piece out of it. And the first time I read that story, I hadn't seen him in maybe a couple of years, this friend. And I look across this big auditorium and there he is. And I'm telling his carrot story in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. And the look on his face, he's just stricken. And he hasn't talked to me since. And this is why, even David.
But did you use his name?
No.
Then fuck him.
No, but
What's wrong with him?
People still feel betrayed. And
Get over it. You need to hang out with more comedians. If he was a comic, you'd be laughing.
well, David Sedaris has told me, he said his family is very reluctant to share their lives with him anymore because he's kind of made them involuntary public figures and they have to deal with the fallout from these stories about them. And really only his brother and his sister Amy have kind of been able to spin this in a good way. but it alienates a lot of people.
Oh, for sure. Well, especially if you use their actual name or people know the origin of the actual story.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're not a bad person. Sorry. Sorry to break it to you. Think you're a bad person. Those are the only examples. You're not convinced.
No, I'm just not revealing the worst stuff.
Okay, of course. Do you think that you have to have some sort of embracing of these dark thoughts to create the way you create? I mean, you're creating these characters that go down some horrible roads, both mentally and in reality, in your work. And it's amazing stuff, but to cultivate that, don't you think you have to be kind of in touch with those thoughts of your own, to kind of in touch with this, you know, this thing where you're watching your mom die and you are going to be relieved of a burden, and you don't want to tell anybody that you're kind of looking forward to that a little bit, even though you love your mom dearly. That's a natural thing that people don't want to discuss, but absolutely exists. It's the elephant in the room.
And that's kind of like how comedy works, or anything where you're stating this unstated thing. You're creating this enormous relief. My classic example when I teach, I ask my students, I say, so what do you call a black man that flies a plane? A pilot, you fucking racist. You're creating this tension.
Right.
They don't want you to say what they think you're going to say. They don't want to hate you. They like you.
Right.
And they don't want you to say something hateful and awful.
Yeah.
And then you turn it around and you put it on them. And so, in a way, you know, I always think that's the soul of comedy, is to create this tension that you relieve as quickly as possible. And the relief occurs as laughter.